My
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
so today and there's we can English talk. Uh, so, so let me introduce myself. My name is Akbar Rizki Pratama and Adelio.
My name is Adelio Akbar.
So
Okay.
today and as we can English talk, we are going to talk about tips and tricks.
Hello.
So we are going to talk about tips and tricks to apply and national universitas of University of Singapore. Yeah, so Brother Nadif, you can may you introduce yourself.
Okay.
You may
Good
introduce
morning.
yourself.
Good morning, Akbar and
Morning.
Adelio. I hope you guys are doing well. So my name is Nadhif. I'm currently a third year student in the National University of Singapore. So I should be around. I'm around 20 years old. I'm currently doing my undergraduate here at the National University of Singapore. I'm in my third year. I am taking up a my degree is in data science and economics. And yeah, currently I'm near New York in America because my university has thankfully let me go on a semester abroad program, so I get to go to another university, which in my case is in the US. So good evening from me in here, but it should be good morning to you guys there. And that's a slight introduction from myself.
Okay. So we just start the questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So where do you live now?
So, yeah, currently, I'm in Ithaca, which is a city near New York City in the USA, if you guys know. Uh,
USA.
but usually in my day-to-day life, I live in Singapore. Uh, I live on campus, inside of the campus. So I live in a dormitory inside of the campus. But nowadays, for around 5 to 6 months, I will be I am currently studying abroad in the USA. So yeah, currently I'm living in the USA, and but in around like 5 to 6 months time, which is January next year, I will be living in Singapore for the rest of my time, rest of my 2 years in college. Yeah.
So maybe I have a question.
Mm,
So in universities, there's majors or what we're going to focus on in the future. So
mm.
what did you choose?
So yeah, so regarding the question of majors, this is an important one because this should align with your interests. I am of the opinion that you guys should pursue majors that are of your interests rather than that you would say like it will make more money in the future or something. I think that you guys should enjoy your major. That's the first of all. For my case, my my major is in data science, which pretty much we learn a lot about data. We combine a bit of statistics, mathematics, and then a bit of programming. And I am also taking economics. So a good thing about my university is that they allow for you to have multiple majors. And this was one of the reasons that I chose my university is because I was able to be afforded the opportunity to study between multiple disciplines. So I was able to study mathematics, I was able to study statistics, a bit of programming, and a lot of economics. And that's why I chose my current major now in NUS. Yeah.
Okay, so next question is what activity that always happen in news?
So you mean like the day-to-day life, is it, or any
Yeah,
activities? Okay. So usually, when I was in NUS, we had I had a lecture almost every day. But regarding last semester had I think I only had two days per week which I have class, which is like Tuesday and Thursday. So a typical week for me was just Tuesday, me getting up at like around 8 to 9 a.m. After subuh and all of those things, of course. But then I woke up at 8 to 9 a.m. I take my breakfast and then I head out to my first class, which is around 10 a.m. Then that's the first class that I took for the day. Classes in NUS, especially the large lectures, they last around 2 hours for each of the lectures. So yeah, it's actually around 1.5 to 2 hours, but by schedule they are 2 hours. So from 10 to 12, I take out my first class, and then from 12 to 2, I take out my second class. This was a common occurrence during my time in NUS, was that the classes were uh, the classes were actually a bit long. As I said, lectures were around 2 hours. So yeah, I get I get so after the 12 to 2, I go to another class, and then I get a 1 hour break, of which I usually do use this break for. First of all, I would eat lunch, and then I would pray duhur, and then after 1 hour break, I would go to another class for 1 hour and then go to another class for 2 hours. So yeah, this was the thing that was happening during my last semester in NUS, which is around January to May of last year. So it was a day in each day I would take 3 to 4 classes, but I only took the classes for 2 days a week. So this was the case because I managed to put out my schedule such that I only needed to go to class for 2 days a week. Normally, it wouldn't be like this. I think most of my friends they go to class almost every day, but it's just that they don't go to class as often as I do. As in, like probably in a day, you would only go to classes for 2 to 3 hours per day, or if you have quite a cramped schedule, you might have 46 hours per day. So that will be a big difference during your time in high school and your time in college, is that the classes might last shorter than the ones that you did in high school. So yeah, so that was my schedule for Tuesdays and Thursdays when I was in my last semester. The rest of the days, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, I had the opportunity to work. So you in NUS they give like some freedom for you to work in between your studies. So your learning will not only happen during your time in the classroom, they expect you to learn outside of the classroom too. So I took on a job at the Indonesian embassy in Singapore, where I pretty much was stationed. So for a week, I went to college for 2 days, and the rest of the 5 days I would work. Honest, yeah, and the schedules of the work, it's a bit of a more flexible work. I usually wake up at like 10 or 11 for the work days, and I work I go up to the embassy during lunchtime, and I would stay there from 12 until maybe 8 or 9 p.m. So yeah, even though on these work days I do kind of arrive late, but I do go back a bit later at night, so 8 to 9 p.m. And of course, in the middle of these things, you have your commute from where I live, which is the dormitory inside of the campus, to where I work. It was around a 50-minute journey, where I took both the train or the MRT, which is what they call it in Singapore, and the bus. Yeah, so I did have to mix a bit of both with some forms of walking also. Yeah, so that was my daily ritual. And probably what I miss is that I think I miss some of the time for having dinner. Usually I have dinner quite late at night. So usually I would have a bit of like two dinners. I would have an early dinner at like 5 or 6 p.m. on the evening, and then I would continue to have a small snack or dinner is at around 9 or 10 p.m. And this would happen every day, of course. So yeah, that was my usual routine in NUS for my last semester.
Okay, so I have a question. So you've said about your schedules and others that you've told us already. So I want to ask you, what do you do in your free time when you're not working or going to classes?
Ooh, okay. So okay, that's cool. That's a cool question. I think that people should emphasize that your free time is the time for you to explore your interests slash hang out with your friends and do whatever things that you would not normally do in your in the other times pretty much. So what I would usually do in my free time is just honestly I just speak to my friends. I speak a lot with my friends. I meet them, have like a coffee together or a tea together, and then we just would speak for like probably an hour or two. Because I think you would need to understand that connecting with your peers, your friends, is an important aspect of getting through college. And honestly, in NUS, I feel like I have been blessed with plenty of uh, very ambitious friends, I would say, but ambitious in a good sense in that they are well in keeping their studies, but they also keep very good friendships with me. They talk a lot with me, so yeah, we do catch up a lot. Uh, we learn each other's interests, what what each of us will be doing, and yeah, just catch up on a lot of things. That's the first thing that I would do. The second thing is that probably I be me being a normal teen, I guess, in his 20s or something. It's quite normal for you guys to have a scroll through your phone. I just want to say that it's okay that you have some leisure time to yourself. I would usually play with my phone and scroll on social media, your Instagram, your YouTube, your Twitter, or something, and I try to get a bit of information of what is happening generally in everyday life of other people, like the news or something during my social media time. I also did play a lot of futsal. So during my time in NUS, I played futsal probably once a week with the other Indonesians because a lot of us Indonesians we do play a lot of futsal, and we usually play during Friday night. So yeah, we could have pretty much plenty of time. We usually play from like 9 p.m. until 11 or 12 p.m. and it's nice like during your college time you'll be afforded the freedom for you to have like your own schedule. So I would be fine of having hangouts or playing out at around 9 to 11 p.m. because honestly, during these times on college, especially if you have quite busy friends, 9 to 11 p.m. or even 12 p.m. at midnight is going to be one of the most prime time for you to hang out with your friends because they'll probably the only time that you would meet your friends. Yeah. So what would I say? What I do mostly in my free time is just speak to my friends, and then I would scroll around my phone, being the normal kid that I am, and probably sometimes I'll play futsal. But then again, on the weekends, if I'm free and I don't have any work to do, I would probably go out to the malls or try out different cuisines in Singapore, try out different restaurants in Singapore. Yeah, that I would just thoroughly enjoy because I do love my food. So yeah, I would probably go out to malls, shop for something, or even like hang out in the malls, eat at restaurants. That's a normal occurrence for the weekends, but it doesn't usually happen on the weekdays. Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. So before you say you always play futsal once a week. So
Mhm.
what sport do you like beside other than futsal?
Sadly enough, I don't really play other sports other than futsal. I would love to get into other sports, but I don't think I'll just have the time to train on myself to play a lot of these sports. But I would say that I would say that not all of my friends are like this. A lot of my friends they enjoy their time in college trying out different sports that they might have not tried during their high school. I have friends taking MMA, taking boxing. Yeah, I think a lot of my friends are just taking those sports, more the fighting sports in in NUS because we are afforded the facility to have a lot of sports organizations in NUS. I have a friend even taking silat in NUS because NUS we have our own pencak silat team, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I have one of my friends that I think he takes some silat courses in NUS. Yeah, but for my case, I don't really play any other sport other than futsal.
So, we've talked about your free times, and I want to
Mm.
know, how did you enter the university? Is it because of a scholarship or you look for it on Facebook?
Okay, so why did I enter NUS? I think eventually what led me to pick NUS out of the other choices that were on my hand at that time was that I had the major that was more specifically geared towards what I aspired to do, which was so for my case, I love doing math. I was able to do a lot of math, but I don't see myself going into math majors into the future. So I did I did like a lot of social sciences, your economics, your politics, and all of those sorts. So yeah, I figured out that there was a major in NUS that was the best for my option. The course was called Data Science and Economics, and I was fortunate enough to be able to be able to be admitted to this program in NUS. So that was my biggest consideration on choosing NUS. But why why did I apply to NUS or why did I go into NUS into NUS was that I guess it's a few reasons. One of them is I was as you said just then I was able to be afforded the opportunity to enter a scholarship program. My scholarship program was funnily enough paid for by the Ministry of Education in Indonesia. It's called the Indonesia Maju Scholarship. You can search it up. They're having like a lot of recruitments, I think, nowadays. Because for my cohort, it was the first year that they held this scholarship, so it was kind of a small program as compared to what they are offering now. And to say that there are plenty of scholarship options for you guys to go on abroad, especially for this case, the Ministry of Education collaborating with the LPDP, they hand out a lot of scholarships to bright young high schoolers to pursue their studies abroad. For my case, that was also a huge reason on why I ended up choosing to go to NUS rather than staying in my country because I was afforded a scholarship to go abroad. But if we're speaking on scholarship opportunities for the case of NUS, you would find that there are plenty of other options too. Other, I wouldn't say plenty, but there is one other option for scholarship. It's called the ASEAN scholarship, which they will be, which is exclusively for kids that are from ASEAN countries or Southeast Asian countries, and that's what they're looking for. Currently, I think each year there might be around 20 to 30 Indonesian high schoolers that are offered this scholarship. I was fortunate enough to be offered this one as well, but I ultimately chose the one that was offered by the Ministry of Education. So yeah, that was for my case. A large part of what drive me to get into NUS or study abroad was that I was afforded the opportunity of a scholarship. Did did that answer suffice your question?
Okay, sir. When you're talking with US people, what the character of US people? Is it fun or something?
Okay, so what I first you're talking about US, not NUS, right?
Yes.
Okay. So during my, I've only had classes for like 2 weeks now, but I think a large part of what you can understand to see in the classes here in the US is that the characteristic of Americans that they are not afraid to be wrong. So in Indonesia, you might have the case of where the teacher will ask something to all of the students, and the students will be very shy enough to answer. I don't really see that as the case here in the USA. In here, if the teacher asks, you'll be certain that someone is going to answer the question, even though they don't know if it's right or wrong, but they like to contribute to the class. And that's what I think one of the main characteristics you see in the people in the USA for academics, honestly, is that they're not afraid to be wrong and they're okay with answering, they're okay with presenting, they're okay with being wrong, honestly. They'll happily be, yeah, they'll be happy to be corrected if they're wrong by the lecturers or by their peers, their friends. That's what I think us Indonesians need to learn from the US people's characteristics. Other than that, I wouldn't say I can really generalize a lot of what the characteristics of the US people are. I think that they're very talkative. Another point is that they're very talkative, they're very nice, and they'll strike up a conversation with you a lot of times, and they're okay with having a lot of conversations with you guys. So just like in the middle of the street, they'll have quite like what do you say in Indonesia? We call basa basi, and I think that might happen a lot more in the US. So yeah, the people might be friendly in the US, and academically they're not afraid to fail or they're not afraid to be wrong. That's what I see for the characteristic of people.
So maybe I have a question.
Hmm.
What were your initial expectations and concerns before moving to USA?
Expectations. Okay, so my expectation was honestly I hadn't really thought about what my expectations were in the US. What I previously knew beforehand was that the people in the US, as I said, were very active inside of their classes. That was something that I expected, but seeing it now, it is really the case. Like a lot of the US people, they speak a lot in their classes, and they don't have any problem with speaking a lot in their classes, which is different from what you would see in Indonesia or even in NUS. In Singapore, you'll see about the same case as in Indonesia, where when the teacher asks, it might not be easy for someone to answer. People will still be shy. It's about the same case in Singapore, but I don't see that thing in the US. So I kind of expected that for the academic culture here. But then another thing, your question was my expectations for the US, right? Adelio, that's correct. Yeah. So yeah, another expectation for what I came from the US is that the weather was going to be cold, and that was actually the case. I think now, I mean, this is quite late at night, but now it's 12 degrees Celsius. The temperature is 12 degrees Celsius, so and it will be hitting around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the morning, probably near subuh time, near fajr time. But yeah, that's the case of the weather being quite cold in here, and which means that I have to be ready with my clothes. Nowadays, I'm wearing like long sleeve clothes, even though I'm inside my room. Yeah, because it's a bit cold in here. The temperature's a bit cold in here. That's what you should expect, I guess, when coming to the US.
Okay, so maybe our viewers have a question. We will let our viewers to ask some questions maybe throughout the podcast.
Okay.
So this is what he's asked. Is it possible if there's someone who want to study in Singapore and paying the tuition fee by working part-time?
Oh, okay. By working part-time. This is a So if we're talking about working part-time, the Singaporean government, they do have quite strict procedures on working part-time, especially if you're a student in Singapore. each week you are only able to work around 16 hours per week. 16 hours per week, yeah, which means that with if you get a good wage, probably you get $10 to $12 per hour, and 16 hours per week. That means in a week you'll get 160 to $192, which is around 640 to how much is that? 640 to 784. Yeah. Oh no no. Yeah, yeah, around that much per month. So around 600 to $800 per month. That's not going to be enough to cover your tuition fees. If I have to be honest, it will probably even not be enough to cover your living allowance. But what I would say is that for the case of Singapore, you shouldn't expect working part-time to be able to offset the tuition fees there. But what I would say is that the Singaporean government, they themselves they offer their own scholarships, which is good. And I don't think you'd have to work part-time if you have the scholarship, because they'll be giving you full tuition fee, but then you'll be getting some living allowance too, so that you don't have to worry. And of course, we have the Indonesian government giving out scholarships for that case. Yeah, and they for the same case, they're gonna pay your tuition fees, and they're gonna pay your living allowance, so that you don't have to work. You don't have to worry about working in Singapore. But if you're asking the question, if you are not under these scholarships, are you would you expect to be able to pay by doing part-time jobs? I don't think so. Yeah, that's the sad truth and sad fact is that it's quite hard to earn a living, let alone pay for your tuition fees if you're on a part-time job. But what I would say is that going to college, going to university in Singapore is gonna cost you way less than if you would want to go to the US or the UK. The US especially is very known to have very expensive tuition fees, but the case in Singapore is that it's not going to be as high as in the US. That's the case. Yeah, but I don't think you should be relying on part times to fill out your living allowances when you're living in Singapore or going to uni in Singapore.
Okay, so we just enter to the main uh, questions and just
Mm.
we can English talk. So tips and tricks to apply in National University of Singapore.
Okay, so what I would say is a huge tip from me is that you should study well. If especially if you're going to NUS, they do put a quite a high percentage or high weightage on your grades, so they would expect you to have good grades so if you want to be accepted, you should expect yourself to have quite good grades during your high school times. And other than that, of course, you have your usual tips and tricks, which is uh, get good IELTS grades. But I don't think in NUS, as long as you get over 6.5, yeah, over 6.5, you're pretty much clear. It doesn't really matter if you get a 7 or an 8 in IELTS, but you still should study for your English, because it's gonna be a quite a quintessential part of your studies in US. So yeah, you get good grades, you study your English well, and I would say is that another tip from me is that if you are afforded the option or if you are afforded the opportunity, you should not only pursue things that are happening inside your class. So you should not only study, is what I mean. You should be able to join organizations inside your school. Well, my experience when I was interviewing for the scholarship in NUS is that they they were quite happy hearing that I was doing a lot of organizations during my high school times. Yeah, so you should for your time in high school is that you should do a lot other than your usual studying. So you shouldn't only care for your grades, you need to care for your extracurriculars as well, joining organizations. There's other options like volunteering, or other like extracurriculars that do not happen in your school. Anything that puts up your value, you have good leadership, or some of those things. Those are quite essential tips and tricks for you to like ace your interviews. And if you do get to the if you do get to the interviews for NUS, especially for the scholarship, what I would say is that you should learn a lot about the school. For my case, they were quite happy when I already knew what clubs were in NUS, like what organizations were in NUS, what extracurricular was in NUS, and I had already expressed my interest on joining which organizations that were on offer. Those parts, the admissions people, they were very, very happy that I took my time to learn about the school before I got into the school. So you should have researched a lot about the school, like why is your major important for you? You should research why is your major, why is it best to take that major in NUS? You need to know the answers that are specific to NUS and specific to you essentially. They love a bit of a personal touch. If you have a story on why you choose NUS, not just like the usual reasons. Oh, I say that I choose NUS because it's near from Indonesia rather than if I go to Japan or something. That's not gonna be enough, I think. You should have your own personal reasons on why you would want to choose NUS, why you would want to choose your major, and especially on why would you want to pick that particular major in NUS. A good plus point that I said before was that if you already knew about the campus beforehand, like what organizations are on offer, what opportunities are on offer, like what classes are on offer, what research opportunities are on offer. If you would like to do research in the future, you have to make sure that you take your time uh, in learning about these things. That's what I would say for these scholarships. Yeah, for these getting into NUS and getting the scholarships. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So maybe I have a question.
Mm.
What was the most challenging part of the application process for you?
Okay, so I think what was quite what was a bit stressful for me. Of course, in the beginning, you do have to learn your English correctly, like to prepare yourself for the IELTS and all of those stuff. I would say because like the application process is not, it happens over 3 years of your high school because they look at your grades during high school. You have to take into account that it's challenging to keep up good grades and you have to keep that in mind. But like a huge challenge for me when I was applying was that I think for my case, it was the interviews. I had already trained for the interviews right before the interview. I had a mock interview, something that would mimic like the normal interviews, and I was given feedback by the mock interviewer is that I didn't really have good answers for the questions. So when I was about to do the real interview, it was a bit, uh, I would say, it was a bit stressful for me because I felt that I might have not been as ready as I would have wanted to. But after going through the interview, it all went well essentially, and I did answer the questions quite well during my interview. But yeah, that was a challenging part on my end. I think for your case, if I see the admissions criteria nowadays, and yeah, for the years coming up, is that a difference is that my application, we didn't really have a personal statement. We didn't really have an essay to fill out, and that's different from the application nowadays. Is what I understand is that there's going to be a lot of essays that you need to write, and I have to make sure I have to make sure that you should know that making essays are not easy, especially on these college applications. Although I did not do essays for NUS, I did a lot of college applications to the US, and they needed very creative essays. I struggled a lot during those terms. I think in part due to me taking quite a long time to start. I procrastinated a lot in making the essays, but eventually it did work out all in the end, and I did plenty of essays. So yeah, for the case of going to school in NUS, the National University of Singapore, I think you should prepare your writing well. you should prepare your essay as well, because they're gonna be needing a lot of they're gonna be taking a lot of inputs from your essay. They want to know who you are, why do you want to join NUS, why do you want to join this major, why should you be a good fit into NUS. You need to take these questions into account when you're applying to NUS. Yeah, that's gonna be the most challenging part on your end of the application. That's what I feel. But in my years, which is 2022, I applied. That means I applied 2 years ago. Essays weren't a huge part, but nowadays essays are going to be a huge part in your application. So yeah, do be prepared for the essays in the NUS application.
Okay. Maybe did you know what are the majors profit at NUS and US?
I, I would say that there's plenty of majors provided at NUS. I can't really list them all if you ask me, but I would say there's like a few huge subgroups that you could consider. There's the Faculty of Engineering, as you know, they have classes in mechanical engineering or technical machine in Indonesia, and then they have classes in material science and engineering, and then you have your chemical engineering, you have your what other engineers did they have? Those are the three on the top of my mind. But I would say that a lot of my Indonesian friends, they ended up taking the mechanical engineering route. I think most of my friends in engineering, they're taking the mechanical engineering. That's for the side of engineering. And then you have your faculty of science, which is just your usual science classes. You have your biology, you have your chemistry, you have your physics, mathematics. But in addition to that, you'll have other majors that you won't be seeing during your time in high school, like statistics. And then there's like, hmm, I think that's a bit of environmental engineering. And then for my case, the my major data science is inside the Faculty of Science. So yeah, data science, we combine a lot of statistics with computer science and mathematics. And then you have another subgroup, which is the Faculty of Social Sciences. You have classes in economics, you have psychology, you have geography. If you there's a lot of majors in the US that you can see. There's like communications, uh, what other majors are in the Faculty of Social Science? I think those are the major ones that you can consider. Of course, all of this information you'll be able to easily obtain inside the internet. NUS has a very helpful website where you can learn about all of the majors that are on offer. Yeah, but I had said Faculty of Engineering, there's Faculty of Science, there's Social Science, and then there's the School of Computer Science. So the largest population for Indonesians in NUS is that they're taking computer science. I think around 20% of the Indonesians in NUS are taking computer science, and it is the largest of any major in NUS as a whole, not just the Indonesians. Yeah, but inside the School of Computer Science, you have your computer science, of course, you have business analytics, and then you have information systems or system informasi in Indonesia. And then, yeah, I think, and then you have computer engineering or technic computer in the what, the School of Computing. Those are the four main faculties that a lot of Indonesians are in NUS, but you also have other faculties like the School of Music. There's a School of Music in NUS where you play a lot of instruments. Yeah, you play a lot of instruments around. There's pretty much a lot of instruments on offer, more than I would imagine, because I didn't really know a lot of instruments back then. But NUS has like 10 to 15 to even 20 instruments on offer. That's the School of Music. And then let me think, what faculty is there on offer? I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. But you can of course search through the NUS website for available information that will help you through your application in NUS. I would say that a large part of the Indonesians in US are taking classes related to programming, I guess, like your computer science, your data science, and then your information science and all of that. And then afterwards, you'll have a lot of people taking the engineering, especially in mechanical engineering. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So maybe with it's going to reach the end of this podcast. So maybe do you have a few words to the viewers before we close this?
I would say that thank you for inviting me to speak throughout this podcast. I enjoy sharing with you guys. For any of you guys who are planning to apply to NUS or honestly any university abroad, I would say good luck on your processes. Don't forget to capitalize on what you have learned the past 3 years during high school. Make sure that uh, you take into account well your grades during your high school. I hope you have good grades to show up. But then again, if you don't have extravagant grades, it's okay because a lot of universities nowadays they also look at you holistically. So they also look at your contributions outside of the school. Say you do extracurriculars, you do volunteering. They do see a lot of these things too. So at least prepare yourself in having good academics, you have good extracurriculars, and then of course you need to prepare your English. Don't forget to prepare your English. I think this was something that might be missed by a lot of people who were coming to universities abroad. Is sometimes you miss you miss your English requirement that might be on offer in these campuses. So yeah, other than that, honestly, just enjoy your time in high school. For you guys in high school, enjoy your time while you are still in high school before all of the stress catches up in university. Enjoy your time, talk with your friends, make relations, network with your friends, make good relationships. And I would say is that uh, you should pray a lot. I think you're not gonna survive on this journey on your own if you don't pray a lot to God. You need to pray a lot. You need to ask God on for directions of what uh, what would be the best for my course. What would be the best for my road to the future. You should ask a lot. I think that's an important part that a lot of people might have missed during their application is that stay close to God and pray well, honestly. Yeah, I think those might be my closing tips and tricks, I guess, closing speeches to you guys.
So thank you, Kanadif, for showing tips and tricks
Yep,
to apply university on Singapore or USA. So
yep.
now let's close this podcast by kafaratul maghrib together. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you for
Akbar.
Brother Nadif. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi